Hey, good day to you. This is Stan Prochowski with Prochowski Estate Law, and this is the Ask Stan show every Thursday at 12 noon, where I answer all your estate planning questions submitted throughout the week. If you have a question about wills, trusts, Medicaid pre-planning, Medicaid crisis planning, the nursing home, or just estate planning in general, just send them to me here on Facebook or call me at 363-7222 or email me at prochowskiestatelaw@gmail.com. I'll answer them live on WKSR Radio, and we post them here on the Ask Stan show every Thursday. So, let's get right to it.
Hey, you picked another good one this morning. I'll give you this. You pick out some good music there, Brother Stan Prochowski. Appreciate that.
I grew up in an era of good music.
Yes, you did. You sure did. All right. Glad you're with us this morning. This is your segment from 8:30 to 8:45. And what do you have for us today from Prochowski Estate Law?
It's good to get out in the sunshine and enjoy it. It's going to warm up a little bit today. That's always nice. It is January, so we shouldn't be too surprised when it gets 19 degrees in the morning, but it doesn't mean we like it anymore. Right?
That's right. That's right.
But,
well put.
Hey, over at Prochowski Estate Law, we do a lot of elder law, estate planning and that. And one thing that I've noticed a big increase in, people call and talk about, is this concept of dementia. There's several forms of dementia. Alzheimer's is the big one, the well-known one, but there's several forms of it. And, I read a lot of statistics and articles from National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys and people that send me brochures and the information for elder law attorneys. And there's an organization called the Alzheimer's Association. I sort of keep up with some of the news articles they put out. And they talk about how we're living longer these days. Advanced medicine, advanced medical techniques, and it's true. I mean, it's not very surprising for us to see people in their late 80s, early 90s. I mean, that wasn't that way, 20, 30 years ago. And so, as people live longer, medically, we see more and more people suffering from some sort of dementia. And I see that a lot. Some of the statistics that association puts out are pretty staggering. Something like one in 7 of 65 years or older have dementia. And out of 3, 85 years or older. I think it's 80, and at 85, they estimate half the people have dementia. Now, that's pretty staggering, and it kind of bothers me. Sometimes I walk into a room and can't remember what I went in there for.
My dad died with it at age 89.
Okay.
In the last 10 years of his life, battled with it strongly. So you're right on the money, what you're saying there.
And like I said, at my age, and we think about this sort of stuff, right? Because just this morning I couldn't find something I was trying to wear, and I blamed my wife for throwing it in the wash when I was supposed to wear it. And she said she didn't, and I swore she did. And for the third time, I went back in the bedroom, and there it was. It's like, okay, well, what's happening? So, it sort of scares me to death a little bit. I don't want to end up with that. But what that leads me into is, I get a lot of folks that are experiencing that, or their spouse is experiencing it. They got somebody in the family that they're seeing signs of that. They may or may not be diagnosed, but so when we do estate planning or elder care for people, we do these trust plans. Now, when I say a plan, I'm talking about a big picture where the trust is just part of the plan. Other parts of the plan include these documents that give power that don't survive death. In other words, during life. And you've heard me talk about this before, talking about powers of attorney. I'm going to talk about it again because something so important just needs to be repeated, because it is. Especially when we're dealing with dementia, because you can't give the power of attorney to somebody if you haven't got the cognitive ability to make the decision to do that. And when you start experiencing dementia, we know it's on and off in the early stages. It's sort of progressive. Nobody just wakes up one morning and they're full-blown dementia. At least I don't think that happens that way, but you can sort of see it coming. But people procrastinate, and a lot of times, somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, it looks like mom or dad are, getting a lot of dementia. We need to do something." We may still have time to do a power of attorney if we can get those folks at a point where they know and understand what they're doing, and they can give that power. And some folks are just plain stubborn. But it's important to have the power of attorney, and I'm going to go into that a little bit, because when people can't make their own decisions, then it gets really ugly. Because if you can't make your own decisions, somebody else has to make them for you. And the problem is, you just don't get that power because you're their son or you're their spouse. You know, I've had people say that, why won't they listen? Why won't they do what I say? We've been married for 60 years. And the answer is, well, you haven't got the legal authority to make decisions for another person unless the power has been given to you. And it can only be given to you by the person that grants it. And they have to grant it at a time when they're able to give it. Otherwise, it's meaningless. You know, what they call sound mind. You have to have the cognitive ability to understand what you're doing. So let's play this out a little bit. Some of the things that I've seen is folks get in dementia, and sometimes they start needing, you know, some care. Maybe, you know, have somebody sit with them 12 hours a day or a certain number of times. Maybe not necessarily 27, but they got to spend some time with these folks. And what if these folks need pay and you don't have their power of attorney and you can't get to that individual's funds? What if you have to decide they need a certain amount of care and they won't, you know, the doctors will discharge them to wherever they go because you don't have a say in it. You know? So what happens in that situation, and we deal with it all the time, is you have to get what I call a court-ordered power of attorney, which means you've got to go to court and petition the court to let you be the person to make decisions. Now just imagine this, if you were married for 50, 60 years and your spouse is in a position that has not given you power of attorney and now they can't. And you've got to go to court and convince the court that you're the person that's proper to make those decisions for them. It seems like a no-brainer and a slam dunk, but procedurally it's not. You've got to petition the court, you've got to get an attorney, they've got to appoint an attorney, a guardian ad litem that does a report to make sure that, that the court is proceeding properly. And it takes a couple of months and it's very expensive. Power of attorneys have to be put into place while you still can. If you don't have one, you're doing yourself a disservice because, you know, one of the things that bothers me about dementia is I think, am I going to get taken care of the way I want to? And Miss Tammy takes care of me now. She does a great job. But, you know, and she's one of the strongest women I've ever met. But she's no match for this dementia business when it gets bad. And, you know, I want to be taken care of. So I want to make sure somebody has the power to do that cares how I get taken care of. When somebody doesn't have your power, all those decisions are made by somebody else. It's probably not a family member. You know, you'll end up with the minimum level of care at least, but it's just an ugly situation. We deal with it every day. And some folks come in and say, well, you know, so my spouse or my father or mother are already in the facility, you know, and I ask them, well, can they sign the power of attorney? And if they say no, you know, that puts us in that position. Now, the other reason the power of attorney is very important, it has to be drafted properly. I've seen some handwritten and self-made powers of attorney, and it's true that a power of attorney in the state of Tennessee does not enjoy any specific or procedural requirements. In other words, it doesn't have to be witnessed, it doesn't have to be notarized, it does have to be signed by the individual, but there's no procedural formalities for it. Now, you know, don't take that and think, well, that's okay, I just go write my own. Because when you have a handwritten one, it causes people like the financial institutions to balk at that. Because the question is, well, how do we know this person actually wrote it up and signed it? And the answer is, well, you know, all I can tell you is I saw them do it, or they told me they did it. You know, when you witness it and notarize it, you can defeat that challenge because the answer to how do we know that the incapacitated person did this document? The answer is, well, it was witnessed and there was a notary there to verify that that was the actual person that did it. So they're stronger that way. It's not required by the statute, but it's a much better way to do it. It gets challenged because financial institutions challenge these things because, and you know, why would they balk at it? I mean, why wouldn't they be in a position to help? I'm sure they are in a position to help, but you know, it boils down to liability. They're going to show this power of attorney to their legal department, and if there's any liability for them, they're not going to honor it. And, you know, that's just the way financial institutions work. So, you know, I've seen these one-page power of attorneys that say, oh, I give my son the power to do anything and everything I can do. Well, that doesn't get it. Let me tell you why. And here's what we run into a lot. There's certain powers, Alex and Tammy like to have fun with me because I call them superpowers. That's my phrase. They're powers in a power of attorney that if you don't say you have them, you haven't got them. One of them is the ability to create and fund a trust. And if that's not written in your power of attorney, then you can't exercise that power. And so if you get somebody that gets put into the home and you want to put them in a specific home and have certain care for them, or they have assets that you want to protect and not lose it all to long-term care, they've lost the ability to make the trust for themselves. But if you have a power of attorney, especially one of mine that has that in there, you can actually make a trust and fund it and protect all their assets from long-term care, just like you were them. And right now, the only things you cannot have a power of attorney do for you is you can't have somebody make a power of attorney for you, healthcare power of attorney, or a will. That can't be done by someone else. So power of attorneys, you've heard me talk about them before. They really are that important, and it's part of a bigger plan, a trust plan. So that's what we do at Pachowski Estate Law. In elder law, we do Medicaid planning, crisis planning, estate planning. That's all we do. We do it every day. Give that some thought, because if you haven't got it, you're doing your family and yourself really a terrible injustice. It's so simple to do in advance. So don't procrastinate. Like I always say, procrastination is the worst choice. If you do something like this, heads you win, tails you don't lose. So that's a pretty good setup. So, hey, listen, call me over at Pachowski Estate Law. I'm over there in the southeast corner of the square, 363-7222. And we'll talk about it, and we'll get you set up. It doesn't take long to do one of these, and it just saves a ton of money and a ton of grief.
Plus, enjoy a good visit with you.
That's right. That's right. We'll sit. And oh, by the way, you ratted me out on the donuts again.
Well,
I'm not going to share any secrets with you.
Here's the thing. I hear like a rumbling noise back there, and I know it's you. You know. But they're there for you. Alex got one. Alex got a donut.
We'll blame it on her. She was the one back there.
Hey man, you're welcome back. Whatever you can find back there, you enjoy it. Thank you, Stan. Have a great day. Always a pleasure to have you every Thursday morning. Pachowski Law Firm. Phone number one more time.
Yeah, thank you, Butch. 363-7222. Give me a call. Let's get some planning done. It's a good time of year to do it.
All right, sir. Thank you. Well, a bonus hour.